Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast that I promised forever ago that took forever to make. And I'm joined by two awesome guests. We've got Harlee and Haven.
Hello.
So,
Hello.
hello. So, Haven, where might people know you from potentially?
I make the abridged series over on Only Smiles on YouTube.
I'll put a link to that in the description. Harlee, where might people know you from?
I am their sleep paralysis demon staring at them in the corner of their bedroom.
Also the moderator for my chats and the live
just-
streams. And
Yeah, you probably don't know me. I just hang around doing stuff.
Well, welcome to the podcast, everybody. That was a
Hi.
great start. Thank you, Harlee.
You're welcome. He
so
regrets having
I-
me here already.
Not entirely wrong. Yeah, actually, it's funny because before we even started this podcast, I mentioned this to you, Harlee, before we started rolling. So I actually had and I think I said it to you in the podcast planning chat, Haven, but I had an unrelated technical issue that scared the crap out of me. So like the way my computer's set up, I have a external little hard drive toaster thing that I keep my drives in. And before this all started, I was like, you know what? I haven't backed this up in a while. I should do a backup. And sure enough, one of the drives died, like, as I told it to start the backup.
Love
And
it.
it was a 4 terabyte hard drive with about 2.8 terabytes of data already on it.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
I am thrilled
What'd you
because...
lose?
Well, I'm not sure because the last backup I did on it was about, gosh, probably 2 months ago because I've been meaning to set it up to be automated. I was just like super busy and wasn't able to, so I ended up like kind of just putting it off. And I think I've probably lost the last 2 months of Blu-rays that I had been digitizing to put on my video library. But yeah, I told it just to I like got another drive because fortunately I had another one lying around, and I told it, okay, just move whatever you can off of it because it was like moving but not great. So I just said take the backup, move everything over. So my 2 month backup was coming over, and it was like, oh yeah, cool, we'll have that done for you in about 8 hours.
Love it.
Yeah, I was not happy. I was not happy.
I really need to get another drive because
too.
I have everything from commissions I've worked on to my own projects all on one hard drive. And every
Oh.
time I'm like, I really need to get another hard drive because if I lose this, if something happens, if it gets damaged, I'm fucked.
Honestly,
Yeah,
that's like my
that's,
greatest fear is like
it's-
losing all my pictures from
Yeah.
like the last decade. They're all on like a 2007 laptop hard drive.
Oh,
And
and
I'm
they're all
trying
also
to
backed
get
up to
them
my iCloud.
migrated. What?
There's also a lot of the ones from your phone and from our vacation backed up.
Yeah,
on
but like
my
the
cloud.
old ones from like
Oh, yeah.
2007 like to like 2015, those are all just like the only copies are on the computer themselves. I've been trying to like manually transfer them all to an external drive and upload them to the cloud, but it takes a long time because I'm like a photo trigger person. Like I take pictures of everything. So, it's just like, yeah, that would be a nightmare losing all of that.
Yeah, that's fortunately the drive that died. Like, and I'm not gonna bash Western Digital, but I will say that they've been the company for hard drives that I have had the least luck with because literally this is another Western Digital drive. It was one of their big 4 terabyte drives, and I was like, I'll go for it. It's nothing major, and it's just gonna have my media on it. It's not gonna be like my channel backup or anything. And it did that thing where it's like you turn it on, you just hear brrrt, 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 and it just keeps making that noise, but nothing ever shows up. And it scared the crap out of me because the little drive toaster that I have works in parallel, which means like if one drive is having an issue, it just won't move past that drive to identify the other one. And so I was freaking out because it was having an issue. But in that same bay, I have my channel assets 10 terabyte hard drive.
Oh.
And it's not showing up either. And I almost lost it. I'm like, please don't let it be both drives dead. Like, because I have a backup of that one that's pretty up to date, but it's also just a pain in the butt to do that because that amount of storage, like half that drive is full, and I don't want to have to think about like restarting a drive like that.
I heard someone say once that you should have like 3 drives. One drive that you currently use, one drive where everything's like backed up to, and then a third drive that's like everything, but it's stored like not at your house, like in an external location in case there's like a house fire or something. And I'm like, well, I don't really have an external location, so I'll just like find like a tree in the woods and like stick a hard drive like in a hole or something, like or buy a locker, like a storage locker shed or whatever, and just nothing in it but a hard drive.
Go to the graveyard, dig down in the graveyard, put your hard drive there, come back to it someday.
Yeah, you won't find anything 6 feet under in a graveyard. Don't worry about it.
No.
Nothing.
It's like where and how often do I have to go to like back everything up to like just bring it home, back it up to update it like once a month? Like what is the general rule for that?
Like one of the things that I saw was essentially like three backups, 2 forms of media. So like that's like, I guess like, I don't know if it's industry standard or what, but it's like, because I saw one of this guy who had like basically a tape drive that's only there for backing things up, and it's not really used for access or anything. So if something fails, it takes forever, but it's all saved in one place that doesn't deteriorate. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I'm going to look that up. And it was like, oh yeah, for the tape reader and for the tapes themselves are like $40 a tape drive, but each tape drive is like, I want to say it was like almost 100 terabytes of tape. So $40 for 100 terabytes, that's not bad. Then the reader, I got to the reader. Oh, it's only 10 grand.
Jeez.
Like, you know what? I'll stick to, I have a little one hard drive with like the must-haves all put into a little fireproof safe, and then everything else is sort of like, well, if it fails, at least I have stuff somewhere. Not all of it though. So
I'm so scared of losing like data that's like precious, like, you know, like photos and videos, especially of like people and pets that have passed. Like that stuff's so precious to me. You can't get it back once it's lost. And like art too. Like I know you said, Haven, like you have all your commissions on yours.
Yeah.
Like that terrifies me of losing my art, like the master copies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would
so
hate
scary.
to lose anything that I've drawn for people. Like I don't care so much about losing my own stuff, but like over Christmas, for example, somebody commissioned me to do a whole poster for them. And I was like, that is not one that I want to lose, because I was very proud of that work. And if anything ever happens and they're like, hey, do you still have that file? I don't want to say no. Like, I want that.
Yeah, no. Well, and it's funny you said that about the commissions and stuff like that. One of the things that made it a lot harder for backups. Now, I don't know how you, well, actually, I kind of get how you've done edits before, because I've done the audio work for some of the older videos we've done, but like, the way that you export files, like the way I've done it up until recently was I would actually export a master file, which is basically just everything as it is, full bandwidth, the whole 9 yards, just put into a video file and export it. And then I'd compress it for YouTube. And that's why, like, I really don't want to have to deal with backing it up again, because like the I did this for almost 2 years. So like the first 2 years of my content is literally like 1 2 gig file or 3 gig file followed by like the compressed version. So like one series might be almost, 20 to 30 gigs of just that series alone. And I had done so many shows when back when I did reactions, and it's just like, good Lord. Like, how do you, like, when you export them, do you do one already compressed, or how did you do that for like the abridged and stuff?
I just do a straight, like the H.264, just that's it. That's nothing special about it.
Doesn't YouTube compress it like a bit when you upload it?
YouTube does compress it when you upload it.
Mm-hmm.
I play to that more now than I did before, because the master file is basically like, I have the full quality version here. I'm like, it's a reaction video. What am I going to do with that? So like, because I didn't care to watch it myself.
Well, also...
And so I was basically just burning hard drive space.
Abridged episodes actually aren't that big of a file once you export it, because it's like, it's not even 30 frames a second. Like, the file itself, the video file itself, is not actually that heavy duty. Like, the biggest part of abridged episodes are probably going to be any additional editing to the footage that like totally wasn't there before. So like maybe
Right.
some movement on eyes or something, but that's it. That's like the extent of it. And
Well, and aren't there also? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was gonna say, and then like sometimes you might do some stuff in After Effects, but I very rarely do that. A lot of other abridged editors will do that more than I do, but I've figured out how to do everything in Premiere, so it's really not a long or hard export.
Gotcha. Well, I have something I'll say about Premiere in a minute because I actually had to use it for like 2 weeks. I'm definitely still not familiar with it, unfortunately. But I was going to say, isn't there, for the abridged stuff, though, like, I would assume there's also probably points where, on, like, still frames, where are you just reusing, like, a still frame, or are you, like, looping a video file
No.
for the...
So what I do is I just take one frame. Usually it's going to be the closed frame, like where the character's mouth is closed.
Because it's easiest to paint it out, I guess.
It's easiest to just overlay stuff on top of it because
Like the mouth
it
flaps.
takes as little space, or yeah, the least amount of space. So if you put a mid frame over top, it's going to cover it.
Plus, like
Sorry.
when you're doing a scene, it's not guaranteed to be the same length as the original scene. Like depending on depending on the script. Like you're
Right.
basically like extending it or shortening it. So
Yeah.
you can,
So I take a
yeah.
single frame and then I change the speed duration, which is an option in Premiere, and just extend it for like 4 or 5 seconds, and it's just one frame extended for multiple seconds usually.
Right, so it's basically just like, oh, this one thing, just make it, 25 seconds instead of like an eighth of a second.
Yeah, and then just adding the mouth flaps over
Right.
to match whatever the dialogue is.
Yeah, and then
That
any
makes sense.
other small edits that are happening as well. But usually it's like, this is one base frame, and then we'll do everything else on top of it.
Which I guess that's probably a lot easier than when you have to do like tracked movements to like a walking
Fuck that.
loop
Fuck
or
that
anything
shit.
like
Fuck that shit.
This is the door closing on Psychopaths Abridged. I remember you were having so much trouble with that.
Psychopaths had so much motion.
Oh, that was.
Oh my gosh.
The
Like,
dildos,
well, and-
yeah.
Wasn't there? Oh yeah, that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you work on like 2 seconds of that?
Yeah,
Harley?
I thought my 2007 laptop would be capable of motion tracking in Sony Vegas. I was wrong.
You got 2 seconds in and it melted.
Like, well, I did all the drawings of the actual dildos, and that worked fine because I didn't have to do that on my laptop. But then when trying to edit it, like, it literally would not let me see the preview window at all, like even in potato quality. Like, it was like not having it. So I had to basically blindly like do all the tracking and then export it, rewatch it after like waiting half an hour for it to export, and then go back in and adjust it based on the exported video because I could finally see what it looked like. And so I basically got like 1 2-second long frame done, which was hard. Like it would have been easy if I had a capable computer, but no, I was basically making life so much harder for myself rather than giving in. And then I was like, Haven, yeah, I'm sorry I came up. I'm sorry I came up with this idea in the first place. I thought I'd be more helpful, but I'm giving you the rest of this. But don't worry, I have 2 seconds done for you. Here you go.
So just for reference, for anybody like who listens to this and wonders what we're talking about, there was a series we worked on, mostly these two worked on, called Psychopaths Abridged, which we did for the Tiba event, didn't you?
Yeah.
I think that's what.
Episode 1 was for Tiba, but it was episode 2 that had the dildos.
That
2 or
yeah,
3,
because
I
we
don't
turned
remember
the factory. It was just a robot factory in the show,
Yeah,
wasn't
but
it?
it
it was
was
a
like
factory.
it was like
some
Of
moving
some kind.
drones and all of their arms.
Yeah.
We had dildo attachments to them, and so we had to basically track all these moving robots and
Yep.
overlay dildos on their arms and have them pointing in the proper directions, have them moving
Yeah.
with the robots, and it sounded real great in theory. in actual like practice, I apologize, Haven.
Sort of like how in the first episode, in theory, it was a good idea to be like, oh yeah, well, I mean, it's an abridged series, so obviously we're gonna have to make our own audio. And I go, yeah, I can do that. And then it's like, okay, so it's raining. There's a truck coming around the corner. It comes to a stop, and we open the door, and everybody has to walk down a ramp. And I look at that and go, okay, I'm gonna have to make probably like 20. I think at the end of the day, I had like 28 audio layers on that one scene that lasted for like, what was it, probably 8 to 10 seconds.
Yeah, I recently I did the sound design for Adventures of Mordred, which was Fate Apocrypha abridged. And it was crazy.
It adds up fast.
Well, it was the first fight scene that I had done audio design for.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
And so there's this one part where the Berserker in the series is unleashing like a ton of lightning all at once, and there's like wind going around.
Oh my gosh.
And like shouting, and all of this stuff is happening, and I'm like, I have how many audio layers right now? And it was like definitely close to 20, if not more than.
Yeah, see, the fun thing for me is like, not the fun thing. I mean, it's fun, but it's one of those just like, you look back at it, you're like, I was probably kind of enjoying myself, which is why I kept doing it. But if I had to do that again, I would probably just want to die. But one of the fun things is the fact that I can actually, like, when I finish with one audio layer, I can actually mash it all down to a single composition. So it all just kind of layers everything that I've already done into one sort of like folder-esque timeline bar. But the only problem with that is that when I made, which I still have that audio file, I loved it so much I exported it specifically to keep it as a file on my computer so that I'm on a watch list, is the one where at a certain point in the Psychopaths, guy gets shot, and in Psychopaths, when you get shot with the Dominator in Lethal Eliminator mode, you swell up and explode. And so I have a file in my computer that was probably on its own about 15 layers called Exploding Human.
The FBI, when they go through your hard drive, they're gonna be like, well, yep, this is it. This is the incriminating evidence.
I recorded an original piece of Foley for that, which was I took my Yeti outside, which, as we all know, is the best recording microphone.
Truly.
I took it outside. I put it behind a little like plastic shield. Took a water balloon full of water and just popped it and used the water sound hitting the floor for the last bit of the audio.
I would have taken a sledgehammer to a watermelon. I mean, even if it didn't come out like intended, that would still be fun. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was, gosh, audio design is like, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, how hard can it be? And the thing is when you don't notice it, whoever did it did a good job, but when you notice it, it's not as great.
Yeah.
But then it's also like, oh, well, it's just a car driving up. It's like, right, but what's the sound of the environment around it, the wheels, the engine,
So in the last episode, the Adventures of Mordred that I was just talking about, it's a 15-minute episode that I did, and for 13 minutes, it's a fight scene. And so eventually you run out of like dirt moving sound effects, where even if you've layered them a ton of times, it's still like, okay, I can't keep using these same sound effects because it's repetitive. It's going to get repetitive. People are going to notice it. So I left my house, went on a drive, found like, those like kind of industrial like driveways that are just covered in like, it's not even gravel, it's just rocks. It's just a bunch of rocks.
Yeah, it's like that real fine like rock that they use instead of paving it like a driveway.
Yeah, it's not even fine. Yep. It's like if you fall on this, like you're bruising all of your body. So I brought a bag with me and just stole a bunch of these rocks, put them all in the bag. It was like, all right, I'm going to go record some Foley with this.
For the sake of the podcast and monetization, you borrowed them. They're back where they came from, right?
Look, it wasn't. Here's the thing.
I'm
kidding.
Was
on the side of the road that was public property. So.
Okay. That works.
You could have just like taken a cat and like recorded it in its litter box, just sifting through the litter, and that would have been some great dirt sounds, like just the of like the scooping the litter.
I don't like the fact that you're correct and could have made my life easier. So like, shut up.
You wouldn't have had to leave your house
at all. The problem with that idea is that I didn't think of it sooner.
Yeah. Man, I should be doing sound design. I think I could come up with some really easy, lazy ideas.
All right, cool. Next Abridged series, Haven, we're throwing all the audio design at Harlee.
Next Steins Gate episode, it's coming your way.
I gotta say,
isn't that gonna be like the longest one we've ever made?
Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting because I'm not abridging after my next two videos.
I was actually gonna bring that up because you mentioned it when we were talking last.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
So I'm entirely changing the way that Steins Gate Abridged is gonna end now. Where before it was going to be, well, it is still gonna be very, very long. But I'm kind of changing the perspective of it, and vague Steins Gate spoilers. I'm gonna be doing episode 1 again, and I'm also gonna be doing the last episode. And then we're gonna go right into the movie after that.
Okay.
And that's how I'm gonna end this because it's
Wait, hang on. There's a movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, we watched it for a video.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it says a lot about how good it was if I can't remember it. Sorry.
Wait, did we watch it together?
No, we did.
Yeah.
I do remember watching it and
Yeah.
being kind of disappointed.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, because we did a reaction video that almost immediately got taken down.
Yeah, because I remember
Why'd you stop
doing
doing
it, but I
reaction
don't
videos?
remember it ever going up, and I guess that's because it got taken down so fast.
Yeah.
It was up for a solid 2 days. And that was it. Because I edited it while we were there. Because remember, we went and did something, and we came back, and my computer was still sitting there going, cranking away on it, because it was, I think, the longest video I had ever recorded up to that point.
I mean, I guess that
Totally
makes sense. It's
forgot.
a whole friggin' movie.
Yeah, and I even, I even had the audacity to just be like, oh, it'll work just like all the other videos. It's no problem.
What did you learn that day?
Nothing I hadn't already known, just because, I mean, I was already kind of on the downswing for doing reaction videos, and that basically just was another yeah, I was very hesitant to try anything after that, but I kept doing episodes, cool, because they work. Yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, I completely understand, in what you were talking about with changing or bridging, though, from experience. You even said it in the Discord earlier. It's just it is so hard for content creators to change what they're doing.
Absolutely, because people come to watch your specific content. They have subscribed for that content, and then suddenly you go, okay, I'm not doing that content anymore, and they're like, what the fuck? And that really sucks, because that doesn't mean that you're not going to continue to make content of the same or better quality. It's just not the same kind of video that people were there for originally, and it's let me be a fucking human being that changes, please.
I genuinely feel bad when I unsubscribe from somebody because I don't watch their videos anymore and don't want to see them in my subscription feed, but because I know that either I know they changed for a reason, either their personal enjoyment or because YouTube wouldn't let them continue how they were going. So I genuinely understand why change happens, but I still do feel bad when I unsubscribe from someone because, I feel like it's not their fault either way. But I mean, it's conflicting because I know how screwed over so many YouTubers get, and I know that nothing stays the same forever. So it's to be expected, but I do feel bad.
And people expect subscribers to leave when you change your content because you're changing your content. We know that it's not going to be for everyone. It's the people that go, why are you doing this? This is a terrible choice for you and your content and your channel. And it's hey, shut up.
Oh yeah.
It's I'm sorry, I didn't know that you ran the channel. Interesting.
Yeah. You're my brand manager? When did that happen? Have I been paying you?
I think those are the people that don't know anybody that's a YouTuber or have no experience with the platform itself, because it's kind of mind-boggling to me, because from a user standpoint of YouTube, they change everything so freaking much just with the apps and the function of the site and stuff like that. They can't leave anything alone. So to imagine it's any different for the people that actually upload to the site, can't people put it together that things are constantly changing in regards to what the creators are allowed to do? So it's not fair for people to blame the creators for going a different route. It's most of the time it's YouTube that are causing it, or the way copyright infringement is handled on the site, or like it's most of the time not their fault. Sometimes it's because of like personal enjoyment. And even if that's the case, like why would people want creators to continue doing something that makes them like miserable, or that's a chore? Like that's just horrible. Like I wouldn't want anybody to like slog through creating if it makes them miserable or unhappy, or if they don't get anything out of it just for my sake. Like
and the other thing too is like with when I transitioned over from reaction videos into regular content, I left the other content up and I kept seeing subscriber gains, and I knew that a lot of that is like in my perspective now, like reaction videos of the style that I was doing is sort of like a low-hanging fruit, just because people can easily go, well, I don't really feel like going to Crunchyroll or Funimation or whatever and watching this, but hey, if I can tolerate this dude, like it almost feels like instead of finding and tolerating the person that they're watching, or instead of finding the content, they just find somebody they can tolerate watching alongside the show and subscribe because they know that, oh, okay, well, he's going to finish this whole series, so I'm going to watch the series with him, quote unquote, and then just enjoy the content since I can kind of tolerate this guy. And then even when I stopped making them and left the content up, number one, I was still at quite a risk, because if content owners decided like, yeah, this is a year and a half old, but you know what, we're going to take it down anyway, like I'd still be screwed.
Yeah, all your effort would be for nothing.
All my effort would be for nothing. I mean, like I was lucky enough to have come back where I did, because I think I had over 16 strikes on my channel from the one company that came after Fairy Tail. And because I shrewdly negotiated / pleaded, I was able to get those all taken down and got that all sorted and not lose the channel. But that was the shift, was sort of like, I'll change because somebody just put a boot in my ass, but also because I was going to change after this anyway. And this was just sort of my excuse to be like, now it's not entirely my fault. They want me to change. Looks more favorable in that way.
And people also have to realize that no content creator just wakes up one morning and is like, I'm going to quit doing this and do something else. No. Like, usually it's a long process of going, okay, I've been doing this for this long. It's working out, it's not working out, this is how I feel about doing it. Nobody just decides to change randomly one day. We've thought about it. It's taken 100%. It's taken a lot of our time and effort and energy into thinking, is this the best thing for me to be doing? So again, back to those people that leave comments being like, what are you thinking? We've been thinking for a long time.
They've been up all night staring at the ceiling, pondering their decision.
Yep. What are you thinking? It's like, how much time do you have? Because I can explain it to you, but it's going to be a while. Yeah. Well, it's like when I did take all this stuff down, like I did a big, like, not to slog up old memories, but like I did a big live stream deleting all that stuff.
Oh, and yeah, I was modding that one.
Sort of, what's that?
I was modding that one.
Yeah, she was modding that one. I cried over $2. That was fun. Somebody donated $2 right as I was ready to end the stream.
He doesn't cry when leaving me after a long distance like visit, but he cries when someone. You are. No, but he cries when someone gives him $2 over the internet. Like priorities.
I mean, you take care of the crying for both of us at that point. Anyway, relationship issues aside.
Jerry.
But no, when I did that, because I did that after, and this was kind of unrelated, but I did this after some dude on Twitter was giving me a ton of crap, and it was funny because the original reasoning behind me doing it that way was, so I had seen this happen, and I was like, okay, I should probably start removing videos, and then it like blew up. Was essentially because Rachel Messer made a video talking about like reaction videos and that kind of stuff, and used me as an example, which when I first saw it scared the crap out of me, because I'm like, oh my god, I'm about to get flamed. Like I thought that she was just going to set fire to me, but she used me as an example of content that changes and is for the better. And then she actually messaged me after she saw my rant video about, hey, I don't know if you know anybody else still in the reaction community, but you should let them know because things are about to change. And I was like, maybe I should do that. And so I sent a message out to the handful of people I knew, and of course nobody listened, because why would they? And so I sent that message out. I'm like, okay, my part's done. I've done what I can. And when, like, I think about a week after, no, well, less than a week after I did that, the Flaming Shark, another YouTuber who does reaction videos, who had over 100K subs, he lost his whole channel. And I was like, oh, okay, I should probably start clearing stuff out. And he came back and he's like, I'm going to keep doing it. And then not too long after that, his channel got taken down again.
Was this from
and I'm
strikes?
Like, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm like, oh,
Bold strategy
they went after.
there.
Yeah, I'm like, they went after him twice. So I'm gonna do a live stream and delete all the stuff. Like, it's causing a ton of controversy because of the one jackass on Twitter, and also these companies are clearly playing hardball now. I'm like, I'm going to take care of this now, and I mean, I've had a better conscience about the content I put up now anyway. It's been a lot better. And I think that's the one thing is, like, at the end of the day, like, Haven, with you switching from abridging after the series is finished up or whatever, and me moving away from reactions, like, yeah, it sucks for the people who join. Granted, I feel like in the instance of changing away from reaction videos, it's sort of like, well, I can't watch this content anymore. What the heck? And that's why, like, I posted on Discord celebrating that we've gone down to 333,099.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was like, yay!
I can confirm he was a sulky mess for like a week after like deleting all those old videos. Like behind the scenes, man, he was bummed. He was so bummed.
Oh yeah, it still sucks because it's a ton of work that now basically just gets to live on a hard drive for the rest of its life, never to see the light of day again.
And I mean, I also totally get all this as well, because I've been feeling a lot. I haven't actually said this to anybody yet, but one of the reasons why I'm also a little like done with abridging is because I was thinking about it the other day, and like, there's this big thing with abridging where the goal is to make it a parody. The goal is to make the content transformative.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And is not supposed to replace the original. And then I was thinking about some of the abridged series that I've kind of tinkered with and been a part of at points. And I'm like, okay, so we're not making it entirely funny, so we're making the series a little bit more story-based and a little less comedy-based. And as much as I don't have a problem with that as a practice, I was starting to think about it. I was like, but is that... how much of that can we actually argue is not replacing the original story then?
It's almost like stealing animation to tell your own story rather than making a parody.
And that's
point.
what I started to feel like a little bit. And I'm totally cool with keeping it comedic and changing the story a bit and making it entirely different. But also, at what point are we changing the show from what it was originally entirely into something entirely new, just using the same character names? And really all we're doing is taking the pre-existing animation to make our own thing. At which
it's
point,
like a really big gray area.
Yeah,
of
at which point I'm
morality.
like, can we call this plagiarism at this point rather than just like a copyright thing? Like, is this seems like an entirely different area of like gray here. And I think abridging is amazing practice. Don't get me wrong. I love it, and I would encourage anybody that wants to do it to try it, even if they don't like make it their thing. I think it's amazing editing practice and writing practice and voice acting practice.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it got to be a point where I was like, I feel like it would be better if I spent my time making new stories that are entirely new and original rather than just working around
basically glorified
weird...
fan fiction.
Yeah, exactly. And I've called abridging that on Twitter before too.
Animated fan fiction.
Somebody
I
put
mean,
like
accurate.
that post your unpopular opinions about this thing, and somebody did that for abridging. And I was like, abridging is just video-based fan fiction, and everybody was like, shit, you're right.
Yeah, right. Well, I think the thing too is like the direction that it ended up going for a lot of people is like the reason why abridging kind of went that direction was because, like, you know, not to throw DBZA under the bridge or under the bus or anything, but it's sort of like their original setup still followed the story but was much more slapstick. And then once it got outside of the initial introduction, it did start to dive more into the canon story while adding its own twist. And everybody else sort of followed that path instead of what abridging was before like when they kind of started doing abridging, there was also a big community of just one-offs.
I think that's a
know?
problem that has to do with.
People would debate that still, but like it changed from being this is what abridging is into there's like abridging and then there's ments, which are like just the short like funny slapstick, just chop chop chop, no story basically at all. And that's what a ment was, is like it's a short
Just
episode of like
Like,
Right.
I think that's a problem though with. I mean, like I think it stems from storytelling. Like it's if it's just like a one shot episode, then that's where abridged like where it works. But like the problem with like if it's gonna be like a long running abridged series, it's gonna need to have storytelling because you can't just have like I mean if you're creative enough to come up with like 40 episodes of slapstick one shots, then it'll probably work, but that's really hard. Like you got to come up with some story, and I think most people most people like that are going to be making a series, like an abridged series that spans multiple episodes, they kind of fall back on the story that's already there instead of creating like a parody storyline or anything, because that's already there for them. It's easier. Most people don't have the experience writing like to make up their own original storyline to add to the humor and stuff like that. Like that's where it falls into the whole like fan fiction-y territory, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, because like SAO, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think the main thing that people need to focus on when making an abridged parody is making it a parody. And I will be fully honest. I know that I've fallen out of that a lot of times in my own writing, and that's exactly what Adventures of Mordred was supposed to be for me. Was my chance to step back, go, okay, well, let's see what I've done before, and let me see if I can do something entirely different. Focus just on the comedy, kind of ignore the story a little bit more, and see what I can do with just a small bit of content, and try and expand it into like an episode of something that's funny more than something that is story driven, which felt good to try, but also I know isn't my cup of tea still.
That's when I was writing with you Psychopaths Abridged, that's why I was inclined to make it really outrageous, like with the dildo machines and stuff like that, like because for a show that was like really serious, like to make a parody of it, like you gotta go like there wasn't much subtle humor that you could do to a series like that. Whereas I struggled trying to write parts of Fairy Tale Abridged because it's already got a lot of humor in the original show.
An inherently funny show.
Yeah, and like trying to come up with jokes that could rival it, like trying to parody a comedy is really hard. Like you have to have humor better than the original, and believe me, like, 99% of us don't. Like,
let's make a parody of Airplane. Oh wait,
and like, it's definitely not
gonna happen.
It's not impossible to make them funnier, but it's
not
really hard to do, and it's really hard to do right. And
especially if you're doing more than one episode. Like if it's one shots, it's more doable. But if it's like multiple episodes, that's where it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
Well, because like one shots, you can always take you always have the benefit of being able to go in and be like, okay, this was funny. Let's just dial it up.
Yeah.
You know, like let's take it from a funny anecdote to like the absurd.
And this is also why when we were writing Psychopaths together, I was basically like, Harlee gets to write the comedy. I'll just make sure that we stay on track.
Yeah. You reined me in.
Harlee gets to punch holes in the ship, and as it sinks, you just make sure it points the right direction.
No, that's fully correct.
Yeah. But that's where a show like Psychopaths, that's why it was so much easier to write for the abridged for that than Fairy Tale, because Psychopaths really did not have much humor at all. Like, it was really easy to, you know, just make it funny because really anything, like, there was no base humor to compare it to.
Yeah.
I find that's,
I think
with dark shows, it's really easy to make them funnier, because any kind of joke that you throw in there, even if it wouldn't be funny in most other shows, it's a lot funnier because you just don't expect it when the guy beside the main character is suddenly exploding.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I love Steins Gate Abridged, I think the thing for that one is like there are elements that lend themselves to the comedy, but the other thing is that it's like there are moments that very clearly lean towards the absurd in the original content. So like as much as I, don't get me wrong, I love voicing Okabe. I love the way that the show is written, but on the same hand, it's like I can't imagine like the challenge of trying to sort of dial up what they've already put in place without it seeming either too outlandish or just more of the same.
And then if you fall, there's the worry.
The hardest thing I've ever had to write in my life.
There's the worry that if you don't like reach that bar of like humor, that it'll be too similar to the original, and that's where you get into the whole like not being a parody thing, like where it feels like you're just retelling the story.
Yeah.
Like you have to really make sure you hit that bar, and it's really hard for certain shows, you know.
And that's why some people are also like, oh, this isn't a bridge, it's just a fucking fandom.
Exactly.
Like, fuck.
That's when you missed the bar.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing that Steins Gate definitely has as a benefit to kind of play off of from a writing perspective, at least, I don't know if you played into this too. I mean, you kind of did whether you meant to or not, but like the fact that you kind of have the sort of comedy and the straight man sort of set up between Okabe and Kurisu that you can really
that's where
sort of
I've
just
leaned all of it
emphasize.
into. So it's like I have these characters with a great dynamic. I'm just playing with their dynamic the entire time because that, as you said, if you go too absurd, then it feels too absurd for the setting, and it's not. It's like just like, oh, you're just going for like wow value kind of humor. So it's like, let's just see how much we can play with their dynamic to make this funny rather than going absurd, because I just...
Yeah. Well, because I think, like, especially with Okabe as a character on his own, in the original series, like, he had his moments of ridiculousness, and Kurisu always reined him in. And I think with the abridged series, you did a really good job of sort of almost, like, dialing up Okabe. And I know this because my throat knows that you dialed him up every time I record. Oh, God.
Well,
and then...
I also...
And then you...
I also took out a lot of the actual absurd moments from the show.
Because you don't want to have to rival that.
Yeah,
know?
I'm basically like, look, if I'm going to match doing this, I'm going to match doing it. And that's it. I'm not going to exceed it. Like, there's nothing that I can have Okabe doing his, like, whole cell phone bit and making it funnier than it is. Like, I don't know what I should do with that. So instead, I just basically take that out most of the time.
Yeah, but I think the other thing you did really well to kind of help sort of balance out the absurdity when it is put in and almost seems a bit too extreme is you do a really good job of like really like drying out like Kurisu's character to the point of like that's the balance. It's just like, you know, already sort of a dry character in terms of like when she has her moments to like smack Okabe back to earth, and you just turn that up as well, if that makes sense, you know? Where it's like, okay, Okabe's getting a little ridiculous, you know, like not, without her even saying a line. When he does the like "suck it, daddy hater," and then just the deadpan silence of like almost not saying anything, but knowing what you've established with the character lines perfectly to him just going like, "Too far."
Yeah, she's the character foil for she's the character foil for Okabe basically. Yeah. Like she's like the equal balance to kind of like, you know, make it like a good evenness like amongst the scene.
But that I can't like that show. I can only imagine how difficult it is to write for because of everything we just said. Of like, you basically just have to turn all the character dials either up or down to their respective extremes and hope that it lands.
Yeah, and the show's got a complicated premise to begin with. So
everything.
I mean, to parody a complicated premise and still make it make sense with all the humor thrown in and all that. That's a really, really hard balance to find, I would imagine.
And that's also...
That's okay. You can just correct it with paragraphs.
Yeah, fuck. That's also why, though, I am entirely changing how I'm doing this last episode. Because I basically went, wow, I really am not having fun abridging much anymore. And Steins Gate Abridged is the hardest thing I think I will ever have had to write. Ever.
That's the hardest thing I've had to voice, too.
Yeah, it is? Well, no, not hardest thing to voice. It's so much fun to voice. Like,
it's so much fun to voice the characters.
Do you know how hard it is
you're
to voice Suzuha?
Yeah, you're Suzuha.
Yeah,
I can get that.
Okay.
I can get that.
I was going to say, I can understand the Suzuha argument. Okabe is hard to voice, but that's only just in terms of endurance.
Yeah, but...
I've gotten better at that, but...
For writing it, I was just like, I'm not going to have fun writing it if I have to go through all of this fucking time travel right now.
Yeah.
And then, and like, I've had a pain in the ass trying to get everything organized from casting crew settings as well. So I'm just like, I'm gonna take this a step back, remove a few characters, start from the beginning and the ending, and just go from there. Let things wrap up like that, because I would still like to conclude this show, but also I'm making my life simpler.
Yeah, because I can't. That is the one thing that I'm grateful if, even though you're like stopping reactions. No, that was me. If you stop, considering you're stopping abridging, like I am still extremely grateful you're ending it, because I can't tell you how many times I've watched not even a bridge series, but just web series in general where
There's no closure.
they don't end.
I don't think I could like leave abridging and be satisfied if I didn't finish Steins Gate Abridged, because like I will listen to the soundtrack from Steins Gate and I'll just go, I want to work on Steins Gate Abridged, I want to work on Steins Gate Abridged, and that's when I don't even have time to work on it. So like I feel like I need this to end for myself so that I can enjoy Steins Gate like media again without thinking about I need to work on Steins Gate Abridged.
I really
it's hard to say no to Eito Kaneko.
Truth. I really wish there was, a way to do the same with Psychopaths Abridged, because that was an absolute blast to write. But the problem with that one was definitely the editing, I would imagine. Like, that one was, like, the easiest one to write was the hardest one to actually, put together editing-wise. Like, and would you say Fairy Tale was the easiest for editing, but the hardest to write? Like,
no.
Really? Really?
Fairy Tale was just bad.
Well, no, I mean, like, editing-wise, visually, it's so much more simple.
Was it harder to edit, though, because you were just starting at that point?
No, because the thing is, because I was just starting, I didn't know how much better I could get. So I wasn't trying as hard as I do now, because I didn't know how to try harder. As I learned more. But I mean,
if you were doing it now,
sorry,
it would be, if you were editing it, like if you were starting it now, it would be a lot easier than Psychopaths Abridged editing wise.
If I was to be editing Fairy Tale Abridged now, it would be probably one of the easiest shows I have ever edited.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
But writing wise, no, Steins Gate will always be the hardest.
Oh yeah.
I think I think Psychopaths took probably, in terms of like the technical side, at least from everything that I saw dealing with it, a little more direct than I have with other shows you all have done. Like, that feels like that show took like 110% from almost every element.
It was just visually so complicated.
To the like the tracking, the way that sound design, color grading. I mean, just from the sound design perspective, like that world is so complex that it's like, just trying to get everything to match up. Even with like one of the things that I never even realized when I was working on it that I ran into, that I've never run into in a series before or since, was actually having to mix the vocals with the background audio, because normally with Steins Gate it's like room tone and like
there's not much happening there. Like I've edited the sound design for Steins Gate Abridged before, and I went,
which you did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you did a phenomenal job. And like with Psychopaths, I just remember the first encounter, and that first encounter of all the characters together is still just burned into my brain, because there's just so many things going on that I remember. Like, I'd watch it through after putting in like a bunch of layers and then go, crap, there's another thing I missed, and there's another thing, and it would just pile up. And I remember very clearly having a moment where I'm listening and I'm like, okay, so I added the rain and I turned the rain down and I turned everything else down so I can hear the voices pretty well, but now I can't hear the rain at all. So I turn it back up and it's like, now I can't hear the voices properly. And I had to go back and forth. I have never had to do that since. But my God, when I discovered that was like something that a very complex show like that needed, it's like, I had
such a similar experience when I was doing Adventures of Mordred, because I've edited Steins Gate's audio before. I've edited my teen romantic parody that I work on with Only Smiles, and those two are very similar. So I went, okay, I can do a whole episode by myself, no problem. And then I went into a 15-minute fight scene, and I went, holy shit, I don't know how to fully get it. It was part of the EQ that I was having a lot of trouble with, where there was just points where I was like, look, everything is balanced the way that it's like that technically you are supposed to balance this stuff, but why can I still not hear some stuff properly? Like,
Yeah,
I
like
just
what?
couldn't
It
wrap
seems
my head
off,
around
and I
it.
can't find out why.
Yeah. It's like coding. It's
Yeah,
like you put a colon in the wrong spot and suddenly everything's fucked.
Dude, it's the same with art.
I literally found, and this was something that I did, and I was just like, the moment I discovered it, I was like, that's it, I'm saving it. I literally have an EQ profile for voices because of how the characters we've recorded, like they all have a very similar demeanor in terms of the way they speak. Not in terms of like how they sound, but like the volume levels when mixing. I made an equalizer that I set up and I saved as a profile in Final Cut just called loudness because everybody has a certain like high volume that they use. Like even when we have quiet recordings, like generally there's a point where there's a loud point. And that's basically what that equalizer does, is just puts it all flat.
I can't imagine I'm very helpful with my files, considering I go from like my monotone Akane voice to happy to Suzuha. Like I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, before we go any further, I wanted to read. I got a sponsor for this episode, which I'm very happy about. I'm going to read the little ad read thing, and then I'm going to talk about it again at the end. It's actually something you've used, Haven. I don't know, Harlee, if you've used it before, but yeah, I got a sponsor for this episode. It's Cedarwood Soaps or soap, sorry, and it's and I have a little thing I got to read. With the times we're living in now, it's more important than ever to wash your hands, and that's why you should wash your hands with good old-fashioned handmade soap. Cedarwood soap is handmade. It uses all the original ingredients, lathers well, smells great, and most importantly, keeps your hands clean because, I mean, pandemic and stuff. All their products are vegan, sulfate-free, phosphate-free, palm oil-free, and paraben-free. I don't know what that means. And it also contains no artificial dyes, perfumes, or additives. I got a special thing for the actual podcast for whoever actually watches this. So if you use the code SteelFrodo in all caps, you can actually save 10% on your first purchase from now until September 14th. And we have a limited edition one that they actually made for this channel for you all viewers. It's Sakura soap, it's cherry blossom soap, and it's exclusive for anybody viewing this on this channel. You can pre-order them from now until, well, the limited run of 10 runs out, so you should get them quick. And yeah, I'll put a link in the description. Thanks again to Cedarwood Soap for sponsoring this very first, very beta testy podcast.
I'm not gonna be a shill, but I actually used the soap at your house, and
That's
I
right.
do not recommend eating any soap, but you'll be tempted if you use this stuff. The stuff smells good enough to eat.
And that 10% code works on any purchase, whether it be the pre-order one or any of the existing ones. There's actually a bundle called I think it's like looks good enough to eat or something like that, as one of the things. So yeah, definitely check that out, and thanks again. Link in the description. Anyway, I just wanted to read that before we got too far in, because I don't know the attention that we'll keep with the viewers.
Too far in, like 50 minutes already.
I know. Oh, well, I'm going to put a little thing at the beginning as well, but that I'm just going to cut in when I make it. But anywho,
have you guys ever?
But yeah.
Have you guys ever had those like rock candies things? They're like chocolate that look like rocks.
No.
Oh, they're like.
Is this a Canadian
I
thing?
don't know.
It's like malted chocolate, right?
No,
like,
no.
Almost...
It's just regular chocolate with like a candy coating, and the candy makes it look like rocks.
I have never heard of this before.
It's delicious, and
rock
it's
candy.
an amazing way to make sure that other people don't steal your candy, because it looks like you're just carrying a bag of pebbles around, and you're like, why are you carrying these pebbles? And then you eat them, and then they think you're crazy, and then they run.
Why did you wait, Haven? Why'd you have to go out and like steal rocks if you had these things for your sound effects?
They don't sound like rocks, Harlee. They only look like them. I was gonna say
they're
tasteless.
a failure. It's like a ditto trying to be a rock.
I've seen these before. I have absolutely seen these before. Actually, I think one of the places... Hold on. I know there's a place that... I remember where I've seen these. I used to work at Party City, and they sell those there.
Really?
Wait, you worked at Party City?
That was the first job I ever had that wasn't a janitor job at the school I went to.
You've never told me this.
Yeah. Well, the girl I was dating at the time actually told the guy I quit because I was going to go in and kick his ass and get fired. Because the dude was... Not to badmouth Party City.
They're
'cause
not going to be a sponsor in the future, apparently.
They won't be. But the manager of the store in the area that I live in is well, let's just say he enjoys only hiring young women, and so he has to hire young men in the what's that? Yeah. I'll just put it that way. And so during the holidays, they had to hire guys because you generally have to fill a quota for a certain number of hires. And instead of letting them go, like hiring them on as seasonal and then letting them go, he would just sort of stop giving you hours and you would end up letting yourself go. But I was determined to be like, I need this job. I need a job because it was supposed to be through the whole holiday season before I went back to school, and he would not give me hours, and I didn't really have time to go and find another job. And so when I went in the last time, I went there to pick up the girl I was dating at the time. She comes out and he goes, he didn't schedule again. And I reach for my door and she just grabs me and she goes, I'll go tell him that you quit. I'm like, please do, because I'm going to kill him if you don't.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was not a great experience. So Party City as a company, no, don't really have anything bad to say. But for the one that I worked for, oh god, yeah, the guy that manages that place is just like a pig. So anyway,
But
yes,
they
I went
have
to Party
rock
City. That was my first
candy.
job. But they have rock candy. Yeah, it literally they look like the shiny little like rocks that you find on the beach.
Yeah.
Yes. So I have seen those.
You were
before.
you said that the soap, you would want to eat it. It made me think of that.
Yes, and you thought of rocks. Yeah, because did you order the soap, or you asked about maple soap? I
I
want to
will
say,
be
or
fully
something like
honest,
that.
I don't remember.
That is the
I
most
only
Canadian
used
thing I've
hand-made
ever
soap
heard.
from people. So
Okay.
it's very likely that I have, but at this point I've used so many that I truthfully don't remember.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I just figured because I brought it up, and my mom was just like, "Yeah, it's like, you want a special soap for it?" I'm like, "Sure." So they made cherry blossom soap, which I thought was very fitting for the channel since it's a lot of Japanese content. It's whatever. So anyway, so now that we've gone over sponsor spots and we've gone over over abridging,
Yay.
And
Oh
the
my
questionable
gosh.
hiring practices of certain
questionable
party
hiring
cities.
yeah. Oh my gosh. So I make a habit of not talking about my place of employment, and I'm still not going to. But the place that I'm working and this won't really matter to you, Haven, but it was very exciting for me that they, and a lot of places actually, including Walmart, will not be open on Thanksgiving. Which is
Yay,
because for reference, I've
coronavirus.
been working for different retail companies for over 6 years, and this is the first time in 6 years I'll actually be able to sit down on Thanksgiving and enjoy it with my family and not have to rush out 45 minutes after arriving to go and work Black
Wow,
Friday.
I'm honestly surprised because in Canada, when we have our Thanksgiving, pretty much everywhere is closed. Like, if you want to buy a turkey, you better not be waiting for the day of because nowhere's going to be open.
Well, so here's the thing. Here's the really crappy thing about the way that a lot of retail stores have been doing stuff in America. And it's like, I made a comment to somebody. I'm like, this is the only good thing about this whole pandemic happening so far. This is the only good thing is that when back before all this happened, the way that it would work is essentially you would, like, everything would be closed up until about probably 5:30, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, everything would be closed. But then 5:30, 6 o'clock, that's when all the retail and all the specialists who go in for, phones or for TVs or whatever your unfortunate retail position happens to be, you go in. And then about a half an hour to an hour later, so if you go in at 5, about 6 o'clock, doors open, Black Friday starts, and it goes on until midnight. They close for like 2 or 3, 4 hours, and they open up again, and then Black Friday starts again. It was this really screwed up practice, and I never personally approved of it. I hated it with a passion.
Yay, capitalism.
Yeah. But now they don't do that anymore because I would assume part of it is because of everything going on in the world right now. And also because, like, last year, it was like, did we make more than last year? It's like, no, we made about the same. It's like, but we opened like 2 hours earlier and made everybody else more angry and miserable who's working for us. And we didn't make more money? It's like, no, surprisingly not. Maybe we shouldn't do that.
I make a point not, like, even if there wasn't a pandemic, like, to not go out on Black Friday. Like, I don't see, like, first of all, the deals aren't that great in my experience.
No,
Like,
no.
I don't like crowds, so that's, like,
Well, yeah,
negative
I mean,
also. But like, I mean, it's just, like, I just think it's so greedy. Like, I would rather all those people working just get to be with their families and stuff like that.
oh, I agree. I'm a Cyber Monday guy myself. So I can just search for stuff online. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous some of the stuff that you deal with on those. I mean, like when I used to work for Spencer's, that was the only time in my entire life that I ever actually had a moment of like, I might actually like be getting in a fight here because like we threw the gates open. I'm like, who rushes a Spencer's gift? So we threw the door open, and I was immediately like off my feet and going backwards from the people coming in. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it was ridiculous. And that, ugh, like, people aren't as polite here.
I can't wrap my head around that.
Right? I mean, I wouldn't have been able to either if somebody had explained it to me, but experiencing it, I'm like, oh yeah, people like that can be just that crap.
Yeah. Good lord.
Yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I'm not a huge fan of Black Friday for the what it brings out in people, and just in general, especially with what's going on now. Like, not to get too like demonetization worthy, but but like with what's going on now, especially like it's turned the people. I don't want to dive too deep into this for too long, but like it's turned a lot of people who are like the would-be jerks into the jerks. Like, they are just jerks.
The small amount of tolerance they had for society has been
plummeted.
erased from this.
It's truly incredible to hear what's happening over where you guys are.
Ugh,
And
Yeah.
it never ends.
And just comparing it to what's going on over here, because like I can go. I was just at my friend's place last weekend, and I could confidently see 3 people and be like, I feel like I pose no threat to you right now because everybody's doing such a good job at staying safe.
Well, no, so that's the thing. Like, between family members with me, like, I have family members who live all over the place around here. That, like, between us, that's no problem. There's no real concern for that. I'm doing everything I can to stay safe. It's this mix of, like, especially in this area where I'm, like, 10 minutes from, like, 4 different states. It's ridiculous that, like, the overlap you get of, like, you're getting right towards that, like, country kind of deal on both ends, because like you're talking southern portions of Pennsylvania and then you're talking Virginia and West Virginia, which is like, hello. And so you get the these good old boys coming up and being like, I don't gotta wear a mask. It's like, really, guys, just put a mask on, please. Like, or like, you realize how hard it is for me to wear a mask? It's like, it takes 20 minutes for you to buy a TV. I'm here for 8 hours.
Like, well,
really?
Also, here, it's mandatory. You're not allowed in a store without a mask.
Some companies actually here, the one company, they can't, or the corporate level decided not to require it, but strongly encourage it, because when it was required, people would begin to get violent.
Yeah, like they get ornery. Like, that's the problem.
seriously?
Even if it's mandatory, there are people that are starting to like physically attack like door greeters and like
Yep.
especially
you wear
in
a mask
America,
today?
there's
What'd you say to
guns,
me?
like people, who knows who's gonna just like snap and like start firing at a poor employee just trying to do their job, like, ugh.
Yep.
That's just truly baffling to me.
Dude, I
It's
live here in Western New York, and I'm just staring off in the distance at Canada, like, hello, please take me with you. Like, you guys are just so close, but so far away.
Yeah, I know multiple people right now who are like moving from their family households because their family aren't taking things seriously, even though they know people in serious conditions from the virus, and they're like, you guys are still not taking okay, I'm leaving then, I have to go.
It's mind-boggling to me, the fact that, like, I see so many comments going, I'm healthy, like, yada yada, like, I don't have to worry about it, but I'm just, like, thinking to myself,
It's not about
Just
you.
because you're healthy doesn't mean it's fine!
I mean, they said obesity. Thank you, Haven.
Jesus.
They said obesity is like one of the biggest like comorbidities, and like, last time I checked, like, America's freaking obese. Like, the majority of us already have that against us. So like, and I'm sure everybody knows somebody who's overweight or obese. Like, and the vast majority of people have at least one like other health condition that makes them at risk. Like, I have diabetes. I have type 1 diabetes and other health conditions that put me at risk. And, like, I'm seeing people say, oh, you'll be fine. I'm just like, no, I really wouldn't be. Like, do you care if I live or die?
The mask isn't for yourself, it's for other people. So when other people don't wear a mask, they're like, oh, it's my body, my choice. I'm like, first off, shut up for a number of reasons. But the second, like, you're an idiot because actually it's not your body that you're affecting. It's other people.
Yeah,
I saw a great way of putting this. Like, imagine you're on a subway and the person next to you stands up in front of you and they have just explosive diarrhea. Now, would you rather them be wearing pants or have absolutely no pants on, no underwear? Like, if they're wearing no underwear, no pants, you're gonna get diarrhea all over you. But if they're wearing pants, maybe a little bit might get on you. There's a chance some of it might get on you, but it's gonna be like a filter, and maybe most of it will be kept to themselves. Like, that's basically the situation. Like, if somebody has the virus and is asymptomatic and they cough in their mask, it's mostly gonna be filtered out, and you won't get their mouth diarrhea on you. So there you go.
Just for reference, the ad read in the middle of this podcast sort of bookends the clean conversation to this.
I mean, we were talking about dildos earlier.
Yes, that's true, but it was in context to something more or less. I don't know.
Wholesome?
I have
Were you
no
gonna say
defense for this.
wholesome?
I don't know what's happening.
Wholesome.
I was going to, and then I remembered who I was talking with.
Family content right there.
Sorry, I'm always 2 or 3 steps behind when it comes to realization of the terrible.
I mean, having me on your podcast just guarantees things are gonna get weird eventually. So I just had to do my job. I had to live up to expectations.
Anyway, not using that as a reference anymore. Oh my god.
But really, put on a mask and keep your diarrhea to yourself. Thank you. That is a public service announcement from Harlee.
Thank you, Harlee. Thank you.
I'm
not
running for
clapping
president.
For that. Don't encourage her. So is Kanye. I think you might lose. I was gonna say something entirely different that was like still. You completely derailed what I was gonna. Oh, I remember. No, I literally have, like, I have had points through the day, which is partly why I am looking for other employment options. But I've had points where, like, especially on the long, like, 8-hour shifts, where I'm just so done in general that, like, I don't deal with customers right now. I actually do more of, like, inventory manage, like, maintenance and stuff like that, where I, like, pull products for customers. And I was getting a product down that had a hard drive in it. And I was coming down the ladder. And, like, it was a heavy thing. You know, when you walk with something heavy downstairs, it kind of has that bounce to it or whatever. And, like, I felt so rude, but I turned on, like, the instant a-hole. Because, it was, like, a couple minutes before the end of my shift. And I was just like, I'm done with this. Like, don't do this. But people literally feel the need to comment on things that they have no need to comment on in some instances. And this guy sees me coming down, and he sees the computer, and he's just like, oh. I'm like, what? And I shouldn't have said what. And he's like, well, you know, if that's got a hard drive in it, you might have broken it. It's like, nobody's gonna buy that if it's broken. I go, oh, sorry, I forgot. He's like, forgot? He's like, how could you have forgotten? You should know better. It's a computer. You work here. And I go, no, that's not what I forgot. He's like, what'd you forget? It's like, oh, I forgot that I asked. Ask. I was like, yeah, for your opinion. And I just walked back away from him. Like, I'm not.
I fucking love your sass, man. Like,
I know, right?
Honestly, there's
it's gotten
there's
sharper.
so many times where I'm like, oh yeah, no, I like sassing people, and then I talk to you, and I'm like, I don't fucking compare.
You're like, I gotta step my game up.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Oh, there have been a lot of instances. Well, my dad and I, when I still lived at home, my dad and I we called it insult volleyball, which was just a way of sharpening our wits even more.
That sounds like a healthy family dynamic.
Oh, it's great. No, because at the end of the day, it's still for fun. It's not like we're actually insulting one another. But it would be just one of those, like, he'd say something smart, and I'd throw another thing right back at him. We'd just go back and forth and back and forth. It's like I remember we were working on his car, on his old Beetle, and I did something stupid. And oh no, I remember what it was. I was working on it, and I was taking the battery out, and he's like, "Hey, make sure not to, because the way the Beetles are set up is stupid. Like, you can very easily loosen something with it still touching the battery and touch another piece of metal. So if you're not careful, you can shock yourself because, German engineering." And I was doing that, and he's like, "Make sure not to do that." And I'm like, yeah, I know, because I had done it a bunch of times before. And then I hear him go, "Shit!" And I look out, and he had put it down, and he hadn't tightened something up, and a piece of the, I think it was something on the top of the engine fell off, and I just turn around and I go, "Hey, make sure not to do that." And we just go back and forth and do that stuff all the time, where we just throw random crap at one another. It's great. That's not the best example, but I can't think right now because I'm burning out. But anyway, I don't know. I do love the fact one of the places that I applied for is, I mean, I can say this because I'm not employed there right now. I applied for an Apple position for a store.
Shocker.
And I love the titling because it's so Apple. It'd be a teaching position where I basically teach people, like, how to use their products and things like that.
Oh, God. Like, we segued from your SaaS to this. I feel like these poor kids, like, not kids, but, like, customers are going to start crying trying to learn how to use a freaking iPad.
I mean, it's only if they come in and are like, you know how long I've been waiting. And
Garrett, that's like every customer.
That is every customer. That's the best thing. That one of the systems that the place I work for has, one of the systems they have is like a little like thing that tells you how long the person's been waiting in a queue. It's like, you know how long I've been waiting? I can just look at it and go, 15 minutes. It's just like turn it right back at them. It's like, yes, I know how long you've been waiting. But no, it's such an Apple name because it's like it's a teacher. It's a product teacher. I teach people how to use their products. But it's called the Experience Guide.
Oh,
like, of course
God.
it is. Of course that's what it's called. Yeah, right? I'm like, I mean, I'd be happy to do it because, I mean, I'd really, that would actually be using the years of crap that I've been learning from these things.
Can
but
real life have an experience guide? Because I could probably use one. Why is it just got to be like for certain things? Can it just be like all around general life experience guide, please?
I mean,
how do you adult?
I was gonna say you got to leave the house first. There's an experience guide, but he's just a little further away from where your house is located. So.
Thanks, honey.
Hey, you're welcome. Oh my gosh, that is, speaking of travel, just to kind of cover, like, to go into one last thing, that is the one thing that I am really just like, I want to go back to do, because I want to go back up to Canada. I've got like all these new cameras. I want to take pictures. I want to see everybody.
Me too.
I should probably have said see everybody first before pictures.
Yeah,
but
Garrett,
I mean,
priorities.
Sorry.
Well, I'm so upset because we've always done everybody always comes up to Canada and hangs out here together. Last year, you guys didn't get to come, but Ethan and Max came last year and hung out.
Well, yeah, and you made a side trip to my house for a few hours.
I came down to where you guys were instead for the
day.
Yeah, and that was great, and I love that. But it really sucks sitting here knowing that we're not gonna have anything like that this year. Like, I miss it. I miss you guys.
I miss you too.
I mean, this is fun, but this
isn't the same. It's not the same.
No, it absolutely is not the same. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, how, like, in general, I know you said there's, like, face masks and stuff are required and stuff, but, like, how have you all, like, personally been dealing with or like, handling the whole quarantine?
One hockey stick apart.
Like, me and my family were totally fine. I think that, yeah, we've all gone tested already before as well. Like, if somebody finds out that they were in contact with somebody, that has had the virus, then we'll go get tested. Not a big deal. It's not.
Jeez, I wish that was a thing here.
It's not hard to do. You call the hospital, you say, hi, we're going to come in. They're like, okay, we'll see you in like 15 minutes or whatever. Super easy to get tested right now. You go into stores, everybody's wearing masks. Outside, it's less so, but like nobody's really near each other outside, so it's not a big deal.
Say outside, that I could see that, especially if you're like walking through a crowded street and you pull the mask from one ear back over the other. Like, I have no problem. Like, that's the first thing I do when I leave work is I just like pull the mask down because
You're
I'm
outside.
out in an open
fine.
parking lot.
And my brother helped with a concert in my town like last week. There was like we're having music concerts safely as well, where you buy a ticket and you are given a designated area. You stay in your designated area, and like it's a safe space away from everybody else so that you don't have the risk of, passing whatever on, and it's all outside as well. So like we're having small events. We're able to go to stores safely, get tested quickly. Like you get your results in 3 days or less. It's honestly, things have been going well here, and it shows in all of our statistics too.
I mean, not to be political, but anybody listening to this that has been buying the people telling you that America has done a great job with this, that just proves we haven't. If we can hear this coming out of a Canadian, like if we could have done things the way you guys did, things would be so much better
also,
right now.
To make note, it's also a populated area of Canada. I'm not in nowhere
Yeah,
land.
exactly. You're not in like moose territory.
Yeah, no.
It's a yellow knife.
Yeah, things are going well here, and obviously things aren't perfect. In fact, I have been honked at for not wearing a mask outside. Nobody gets mad at you for wearing a mask. Nobody says anything. But it's when you're not wearing a mask that you'll actually get the most.
Maybe
shit
you're just
here.
ugly.
Oh yeah, I know you're right.
Well, so that's Jesus.
Put your mask on. Oh my God, think of the children.
Yeah, and
That's the funny.
go on. No, you go on.
ahead. I was gonna say that's the funny thing though with at least here. I don't know how it is elsewhere in the country, but I know like here, it's like I can't win. That's the problem because like I get a very abrupt, very like acute experience at work of the stupid of people going in. It's like I don't gotta wear a mask, but like I've gone out and I got a new camera recently and I've been doing a ton of street photography. It's a Polaroid, so I've been burning through a ton of money too because those are not great cost to film cameras. But either way, I've been doing a lot of street photography. But like when I'm outside walking the street and I'm like the only one on a sidewalk, I'm not going to wear my mask, especially considering like when I'm trying to look through the viewfinder, not only is the breath from my mask blowing up and fogging my glasses, but it's fogging the viewfinder as well. So I'll do that. I get honked at, like you were saying, I get honked at for not wearing my mask when I'm outside. And then, like, obviously you'd get yelled at if you're not wearing a mask inside a store as well. So it's like, I can't win in that regard because then the other end of it is I don't wear a mask in a store or if I wear a mask in a store, but if I don't wear a mask in the store, I get yelled at. If I don't wear a mask outside, I get yelled at. Well, then if I'm walking around wearing the mask, you also get the people going like, why are you wearing a mask? You're outside,
Yeah,
idiot.
there's places where you get berated for wearing a mask. Like, what, you think you're buying the hoax? Like it's like,
I had a guy
ask
me if
I've seen
Go ahead.
people get mad at other people for not wearing a mask, but I've not here. I haven't heard or seen anybody being upset about anyone else wearing a mask.
Yeah, I mean, like the whole thing with wearing the mask, like I completely get it. I'm all for it. And for the people who don't want to, I think it's completely stupid. But like on the same hand, it's like one of those like, don't get mad at people for following the rules just because you're not going to. But on the same hand, like use it within reason. Don't be like, hey, you're 35 feet from the next nearest person in the middle of a field. Put your mask on. It's like, come on, guys.
And
like,
my brother, his job, he works in retail as well. And his job is to stand at the door and make sure that people are wearing their masks. And if they're not, then they don't get into the store. And he has like said, he's had a few instances where there's been people that are mouthy about it. But usually most people will put one on it, even if they're a little mouthy about it. And very rarely, but occasionally, it still does happen. There are the people that are like, fine, well then I'm not coming into your store. And he's like, okay, good, bye.
Like it makes me laugh when I hear stories of people that are like, you're discriminating. You can't make me wear a mask, and I'm just like, but stores have every right to not to deny you service for the the no shirt, no shoes, no service. Like they have every right to do that. Well, guess what? That extends to masks too. A store doesn't have to let you in if you're not going to follow their rules.
Congratulations. You're right. I don't have to make you put on a mask, but I also don't have to let you into my store. Goodbye.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite things when people would be like, "Oh, this is public property," and it's like, actually, no, this is a private business. This is actually private, like, owned ground. You can leave. Like, I don't know. It's been interesting to see how this has been dealt with. Because like, I mean, oddly enough, like early on when this all first started happening, like I feel like this area of Maryland handled it better than most places. I think the only reason for that is because of Maryland's like sheer proximity to DC.
I think that's the same thing for me being in Buffalo, like our sheer proximity to Canada. It just kind of, the politeness like, and thoughtfulness wore off on us, and so we were like, all right, we'll think of our neighbors.
Politeness. Have you met you?
That is fair, but I do like hockey and Tim Hortons, so, I mean, something 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Yeah.
there you go. But yeah, like, that's been the thing is, like, I feel like we handled it better than most, at least in our area. Because, number one, we're not a big area. Maryland is not big, and the place that I'm in Maryland isn't very big. We're close to DC, but I think what kind of skews that is the fact that when I drive to visit either of you, when I drive to visit you, Harlee, or when we go up and just all drive to Canada, I'd say like 85% of that drive is Pennsylvania, because literally it takes me 10 minutes to get there. So it's like I feel like because of the proximity that we are to other states, that like Pennsylvania, because of the proximity we have to other states, we've got West Virginia and Virginia, which are just like the most, like, kind of, at least in the areas that are connected to us, some of the more redneck areas. And then we got Pennsylvania, which you've got the people who are like, it's my right, it's this, that's blah, blah, blah. And then you've got the state itself, which has just locked it down entirely and has only recently started to open things back up. So you've got like people who aren't happy about it being locked down and want to be like, my freedoms. And then you've got, the Pennsylvania state itself, like, locking down. You got people who don't want it and the state doing it anyway. It's like, yeah, so we end up just kind of collecting the crap.
I will always find it funny when you came up here. I think it was the first time that you came up here and you like left your car unlocked. And you were like, oh my god, I forgot to lock my car.
Oh yeah, I was like, oh my god.
It's fine. We're in Ontario. We're in a very nice... No,
I didn't even unlock my car.
We're in a very nice part of Ontario. You're fine.
Even I was kind of
and it wasn't even... No, I think I was going
to
to give somebody else crap because I think somebody who was riding... Whoever was riding in the passenger seat, I think at the time when I first came up there, I think it was Matt, left the passenger side unlocked. I'm like, oh my god.
It's just second nature to think of that. Like, I would still like be paranoid if I was in like the city of Toronto, because any city is gonna have that kind of stuff going on. But like in general, I totally forget that that's just a different culture expectation in Canada with like locking doors and stuff like that.
Like, there are people that break into your car. It happens occasionally. Like, we've lived here for what, over 15 years, probably 17 years, something like that. And our car's been broken into 3 times. And that's over 17 years of leaving our car doors open pretty frequently.
That's actually pretty nuts.
That's a pretty good rate for like, so lock your doors to be safe, but also if you forget it for one night, you're probably going to be okay.
Well, I like literally when I first moved to where I am now, when I moved out, I was kind of like all disheveled, like kind of like, okay, I guess, I'm here now. I'm like getting used to everything, not really super familiar with the area. Like I knew the area, but not as familiar as I should be at that point. And so I wasn't quite sure. So I like did everything locked up, like locked my doors and all that stuff. And I've had no issues at all with that kind of stuff. But funnily enough, before I moved out, I had to replace because my car's got like, place cool plastic door handles, and I had to replace one of them because somebody did the whole like check to see if it's unlocked, but like yarked on it and broke the door handle in the door. So I actually had to go out to the junkyard and get a door handle off of another car to fix it because they just broke it. It's like, seriously?
They didn't break into your car, they just broke your car.
That's true. Plus, I'd love to know who looks at like this old, crappy blue car with faded paint, painted black wheels, tinted headlights, and mismatched color parts and go, you know what? I want in that. Like, who looked at my car and was like, that's a car that's got valuables in it.
Yeah, I know, right?
3 like robbery attempts that I've heard in my area. Now they were all only attempts because they were either one place did get robbed, and then the next day they tried to get robbed again, but the store at that point put like the metal grate in front, so like the people couldn't get in that time, and then the other place had one of the metal grates, and in Canada people just don't understand how to get around those. So, like,
Canadian kryptonite.
For real, like, I talked to one of my friends who lives in Illinois, and they were like, yeah, if they did that here, they're knocking that shit down. If they don't care, they're gonna get in still. That metal grate's not slapping anybody. In Canada, it's the perfect barrier. Nobody's getting by it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's actually, so, I guess, because we could probably wrap this up soon, but the one thing I was going to say, actually, now that you said that about the grates, so one of the things that that I saw from when like the riots here were going on and stuff, one of the things that one of the companies did is like there's an install bay that one of the places has, and it's basically it's a tall 2-car garage sort of door setup. And so they use that to let cars in so they can work on the radios and stuff like that. And people during the riots were raiding stores. And so one of the things they did to raid the stores was they would take like a big car, or just any car really, and just barrel through those metal doors, because they're just sheet metal. Like, they lock them and all that, but they're just sheet metal. And so one of the things that I thought was hilarious was one of the distribution vans that they used is big enough to fit behind those doors. So they would park those distribution vans behind the doors inside of that 2-car garage setup for the install bay. And somebody tried to do that to another store that had done that, and just took this little car and just smashed into it thinking they would go straight through it, and then ended up rear-ending this giant delivery van. It was just like, yeah, there's your workaround, I suppose. Yeah, it was nuts. So it was a crazy, crazy time. It's ridiculous, some of the crap that people do, though. I'm amazed. Well, I think we can probably wrap the podcast up at this point. I don't know. You guys have anything else you wanted to share or say, or we really kind of diverged into world topics afterwards? But I don't care.
How did we go from like explosive diarrhea
yeah,
to...
thank you.
To
Thank you.
That'll be
what
fun.
a whiplash.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, really.
You're
It's
welcome.
like, hey, by the way, well, hey, you know what? If that ever happens to somebody, they can use the soap to wash their hands. I'm sure that's not exactly the ad read they want. I'm sure that's not the way that they want that to be pushed.
They're retracting their sponsorship as we speak.
It's like, hey, look, I know we agreed to this, but no, we're not doing this anymore. We'll pass on this after Harlee made the diarrhea comment. But
I'm now
thanks
permanently
for your interest.
blacklisted from ever being associated with the brand.
It's like, all right, I'll have to send a guest list in every time, and if you're on it, it'll just be like, nope. We'll pass on that. Oh, man. Well, anyway, that was fun. Thank you for everybody who watched the first podcast, beta test podcast of the CrespoCast. We'll see if it continues. I mean, it's going to continue. We just, there will be improvements. And
Hopefully,
we'll have
some more enthralling topics that I cannot
Hopefully.
derail.
Hopefully. So like we said at the start, so Haven, what are you currently working on? Is there a place that anybody can find you and that kind of stuff? I'll link the channel. Do you want the Only Smiles channel in the description? Or what do you
Yeah,
want to link?
Only Smiles is where I do all my work currently, and if you want to just find my stuff by myself, follow me on Twitter.
There you go. So I'll put the Twitter handle there and the YouTube channel. And Harlee, anything you're working on?
I am a woman of many endeavors.
Or anything like that?
I'm a woman of many endeavors. If anybody needs an artist, a singer, a voice actor, someone to insult them for money, let me think.
How much do you charge for insults?
It depends. It's like on a sliding scale. It depends on how easy it is to make fun of you.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll need to talk
pity.
to you about this afterwards. Then.
Good. If you need a pity charity case, just I can put some Sarah McLachlan over a zoom in of me giving you puppy dog eyes, and maybe then that'll make you feel inclined to donating money to me. Other than that, I really don't do much except annoy Garrett. That's basically my number one hobby. So, yeah.
So Twitter handle in the description?
At Harlee Noble, VA, I think. I don't even remember anymore.
Yeah, it's still VA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just, just find Garrett and pester him, and he'll probably send you my way.
All right. Also can be found harassing or enforcing law in the moderation section of any of my live streams.
Yeah, if I can remember. I sometimes I wake up in the dead of night and go, oh my god, that's right, I'm a mod for Garrett. I really hope nobody's caused absolute destruction in his server while I was gone.
Well, it's okay. Haven's here to assist to some degree now as well.
Oh, Garrett, you're doing exactly what I did with the whole dildo situation, shoving every responsibility onto her, basically.
Yay!
I asked if you wanted to be a manager, and you just said, hell yeah.
She was also that enthusiastic when I pitched the idea for Psychopaths Abridged, and then that changed once I completely bowed out.
The proposition versus the reality will determine what's going to actually happen here. All right, well, anyway, thanks, everybody, for sticking into the podcast. I'm going to try to do these once a month. I'm going to kind of rotate through guests, obviously. Thank you very much, Harlee. Thank you very much, Haven, both of you, for stopping in and enjoying this beta test podcast with me.
Stay safe, everybody.
Stay safe. Wear your goddamn masks.
Please.
And, check out the sponsor thing. And I'll see you guys. Well, hopefully everybody will see you guys at some point. So, bye.
Bye.